Your health is a commodity traded for profit and loss. If you or a family member become a medical liability to corporate profits, you are left to die. The parasitic U.S. healthcare system is gamed by sleazy companies and governments to steal from Americans. Government corruption is affecting elected and unelected public servants, the courts, lawyers, law enforcement, and public and private institutions. A whistleblower who worked for Agate Resources and Trillium Health from November 7, 2005 to September 27, 2013 as data warehouse administrator had access to Trillium Health's and Agate Resources' dozens of shell companies' records. There have been other Trillium Health whistleblowers, and each has been attacked by Stoll Reeves, a Portland-based law firm, to the point of professional, financial, and personal ruination. Stoll Reeves and Oregon government used fictitious and altered documents as a common scheme to achieve this. Thus, many whistleblowers have been unwilling to step forward once they have witnessed the destruction of their co-workers. The whistleblower reported ethics and legal violations by Governor John Kitzhaber and his aides to the Oregon Ethics Commission and the U.S. Department of Justice December 18, 2014. Kitzhaber was soliciting money from Agate Resources and Trillium Health. Oregon media ignored whistleblowers who came to them with information about criminal acts committed by John Kitzhaber and coordinated care organizations. Oregon Federal District Court Judge Ann Aiken sealed all records connected to the Kitzhaber investigation. The whistleblower contacted Attorney General Hardy Meyer's office in 2007 regarding the illegal selling of employees and their families' medical costs and medical records by Agate Resources Trillium Health to private entities. Meyer did nothing with the information. The whistleblower contacted Attorney General John Kroger's office in 2009, who did nothing with the same information. The whistleblower had personal contact with, at that time, Secretary of State Kate Brown twice in February 2012 and once in February 2014. She did nothing with the information, which by now had grown in scope. The whistleblower had multiple phone conversations with Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum's staff regarding Agate Resources Trillium Health. They received documents personally delivered by the whistleblower in 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. The 2014 documents detailed over $400 million in recoverable fraud perpetrated by Agate Resources and Trillium Health. Rosenblum did nothing with the information, which now makes the state of Oregon liable for HIPAA violation fines totaling billions of dollars. The whistleblower contacted Oregon State Representative Michael McLean multiple times during his 2012 to 2015 tenure as Republican leader of the House. He did nothing with the information. McLean was subsequently appointed to the 22nd Circuit Court of Oregon by Governor Kate Brown in July 2019, while he was still serving as a representative. The whistleblower contacted Senator Ron Wyden in 2013 and 2014. He did nothing with the information. The whistleblower contacted Senator Jeff Merkley in 2013 and gave documents to Merkley's Chief of Staff, Gene Atkins, who was later appointed Secretary of State in March 2015 by Governor Kate Brown. They did nothing with the information. The whistleblower contacted Secretary of State Dennis Richardson in 2017. Richardson had a private auditor verify the whistleblower's allegations and documents, and then had his audit division investigate the Oregon Health Authority for hundreds of millions of dollars of unaccounted for Oregon Health Plan and Affordable Care Act money. The audit was published in November 2017. Attorney General Rosenblum and Governor Brown interrupted Secretary Richardson's audit investigation every opportunity they had. Secretary of State Dennis Richardson died of brain cancer February 26, 2019. Agate Resources was a holding company for over 30 shell companies, the coordinated care organization Trillium Healthcare being one of them. Centene, who already owned dozens of other shell companies such as HealthNet, purchased Agate Resources and its shell companies in 2015. The sole income of Centene's shell companies' coordinated care organizations is derived from administering Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, Medicare, and other government-subsidized health insurance programs. Trillium Healthcare Coordinated Care Organization has no employees, facilities, management, or resources. Employees worked for Agate Resources and were leased to Trillium or were loaned to manage the other dozens of shell companies. Stoll-Reeves legal firm organized this arrangement. The problem is, Agate Resources lacks a license to conduct health insurance business, something the state of Oregon has overlooked with Agate Resources' parent company, Centene Corporation. Coordinated care organizations began as claim processors, but in 2005 they also became limited benefit managers, at which point they began assembling and operating shell companies that sold durable medical equipment, prescription drugs, home visits, feeding apparatuses, diabetic equipment, and much more. Trillium Health Coordinated Care Organization documents reveal Agate Resources shell companies listed as the vendor, prescriber, and referring provider for the same client's charges. This is a violation of federal laws prohibiting a doctor from referring a patient to themselves, partner, or business associate for services. This is a brazen rejection of the Stark Laws enacted in 1989. Agate Resources shell companies billed Trillium Health for real and fictitious patients and charges. The money paid to these shell companies ended up in Agate Resources' pockets because they owned the shell companies. The majority of the bills Trillium Health processed and paid originated from Agate Resources' own shell companies. The following is a small sampling of Agate Resources and Trillium Health's criminal scams. Many Oregon public servants such as Attorney General Rosenblum, Governor Brown, the Oregon Health Authority, and others are aware of these illegal schemes, but have turned a blind eye while benefiting financially. Non-existent patient accounts were manufactured and used for falsified billings by Agate Resources shell company. Agate Resources shell companies use fictitious and authentic patients' names and ID numbers up to 25 plus times to bill for a single service, using the same CPT code and date for each billing. These claims were then processed by their coordinated care organization, Trillium Health. Billing codes were unbundled. Instead of a singular allowed charge for a service, aspects were teased out and billed in addition to the allowed bundle charge so as to increase the dollar amount reimbursed. Palivizumab is used to prevent croup, respiratory syncytial virus, and at-risk newborns and young children. Agate shell companies accounted for 71% of the bills submitted for palivizumab to Trillium Health Coordinated Care Organization. These are stark law violations because the prescriber, vendor, and supplier were Agate Resources' own shell companies such as Lane Home Medical and Lane Oregon Health Plan Pharmacare. Allison Harper, an optometrist in a small Oregon coastal town who would never treat respiratory syncytial virus, had billings under her name. Parental Therapy Associates Incorporated of Chicago, who has no license to operate in Oregon and who has had multiple federal actions against them for fraud, made billings. BioScript Pharmacy of Florida, who is also not licensed to operate in Oregon, billed Trillium Health Coordinated Care Organization for palivizumab shots. Per billing records, multiple shots of palivizumab were given to the same child on the same day. Most of the billings were much above the recommended $588 charge. The whistleblower looked into many records of patients supposedly receiving palivizumab shots. What he found was that they were all fictitious. Attorney General Rosenblum was informed of this and could have recovered $25 million plus in insurance fraud from just the palivizumab shots alone. Rosenblum chose to ignore it. Agate Resources sold their clients' medical information and costs to employers, credit agencies, physicians so that they could cherry-pick the low-cost, healthier families, businesses, and insurance underwriters, resulting in employees losing their jobs, destruction of families, denial of home and consumer loans, higher interest rates, and inability to find a primary care physician. The whistleblower extracted patient health information and costs and created risk scores for Agate Resources, which they called hotspotter reports, or what is known in the industry as medical redlining. These reports were manipulated by Agate Resources to deny care and were sold to interested parties. Risk scores define the severity of a patient's medical condition. For ill clients, these risk scores were increased so as to withhold treatment. What Agate Resources enacted was their own death panels. Agate Resources purchased HIV-positive status, along with the individual's name and address for all of Oregon from the Oregon Health Authority. Agate Resources also purchased medical information on Oregon prisoners, foster children, psychiatric patients, cancer patients, individuals with sexually transmitted diseases, counseling records, and much more from the Oregon Health Authority. This private information was put into spreadsheets and sold to public companies. Kay Metzger worked for the Oregon Health Authority, and every month she picked up $5,000 from Agate Resources for the sale of this HIPAA-protected information, according to the whistleblower. All foreign students going to Oregon State universities have their medical information collected and sold without their consent. This is espionage and a violation of international law. This is happening in at least 33 states, as witnessed by the whistleblower. Your medical records are being sold illegally and used to discriminate against you. Agate Resources denied care routinely to the lives they managed. Cancer treatment, referral to a specialist, basically anything of cost was frequently delayed or denied in hopes the condition would worsen and the patient would die. Centene has continued this abhorrent conduct using Agate Resources profiling algorithms. For the general Oregon population, independent of medical insurance or age, the referral authorization rate in 2015 was 65% for white patients and 30% for non-white patients. White Oregon Health Plan kids living with their family were granted medical authorizations and referrals 26% of the time by Trillium Health. However, for white foster children, the referral authorization rate dropped precipitously to 13%. For Native American foster children, it was 9.5%. For black foster children, it was 8%. And for Hispanic foster children, it was a paltry 6.4%. Agate Resources did queries based on many variables such as sex, disabilities, sexual orientation, etc. The whistleblower did a query of University of Oregon athletes, all of whom are automatically placed in the Oregon Health Plan. White athletes received requested referral authorization 65% of the time, while the black athletes, it was a paltry 25% of the time. Agate Resources spent $325 on prenatal services for black women, while spending over twice that much for white women. These are civil rights violations by Agate Resources based on race, economics, and family unit status. The whistleblower and Dick Sabbath did a study in November 2010 regarding the apparent overprescribing of narcotics in their system. What they found was that narcotics were being mailed by an Agate Resources shell company without a license to conduct such business to around 200 blind mail drops at postal centers in Lane and surrounding counties. A postal center would have multiple mailboxes leased out, and each box would have 50 to over 100 individual fabricated patients' names associated with it. This is a felony. Trillium Health mailed out 600,000 plus narcotic pills every month. The whistleblower found that the supposed patients were fabricated, and the prescribers were the same self-referring, wholly owned Agate Resources facilities, such as Lane Oregon Health Plan Pharmacare and Lane Home Medical. Agate Resources Trillium Health focused advertising and signups in Latino communities. As long as the undocumented clients were seen for inexpensive care, there were no problems. But once they needed expensive health care, Trillium Health was suddenly asking for Social Security numbers, which they knew these undocumented individuals didn't have. Trillium Health also denied or held up referrals. Either way, Trillium Health put an end to the undocumented person's pursuit of care. Oregon politicians act as if they care about the poor and undocumented people, but in reality, they never did and they still don't. If they sincerely cared about them, Oregon politicians and government would have acted upon the information and documents given to them multiple times by the whistleblower, which clearly show the criminal acts perpetrated by Agate Resources. Agate Resources offered patients suicide drugs instead of definitive medical care. Agate Resources would deny medical care as requested by physicians if the costs were considered too high. Instead, Trillium Health gladly offered $25 worth of suicide pills. Agate Resources routinely denied and delayed referral and treatment approvals for ill patients. According to the whistleblower, Trillium Health denied pain pills to those dying of cancer, but instead offered them assisted suicide because it was cheaper. Agate Resources was legally required to have a primary care physician for every life they managed through their coordinated care organization, Trillium Health, who received $650 per month per life from the federal government, that is, the taxpayers, to manage these lives. Trillium Health didn't have enough contracted physicians within the community to accomplish this requirement. The whistleblower states that there were 23,000 to 28,000 lives under Trillium Health's management without a primary care physician in 2014. Lane County politicians, working in collusion with Agate Resources, took federal money from low-income health and housing grants and used it to build and staff 2 clinics, with 4 physicians total, to care for Trillium Health's 23,000-plus client patients that didn't have a primary care physician. Trillium Health stated they were contributing $500,000 to the project, but they never did. The whistleblower contacted the Oregon Medical Board, overseen by the Oregon Health Authority, regarding the aforementioned criminal acts committed by physicians. The Oregon Medical Board ignored his concerns by stating they had no ability to intercede. The whistleblower also contacted the Oregon Medical Board in 2020 regarding physician charges above the Medicare allowable fee schedule. What he found was that the Oregon Medical Board itself was involved in producing Medicare fee schedules for Oregon that allowed these overcharges. The Oregon Medical Board sells its existence to the public and politicians as necessary to protect Oregonians from medical malfeasance. This is obviously a lie. September 1st, 2015, Agate Resources and its shell companies were sold to Centene, a massive national player in the Affordable Care Act arena. Top management and physician players within Agate Resources and the Lane Independent Physicians Association, in particular those on the board, along with some government figures, had prior knowledge that Agate Resources and their associated shell companies were going to be sold to Centene. As of August 31st, 2013, prior to the whistleblower being fired, there were 100,911 outstanding A shares, according to the whistleblower. At $1,900 per share, their value was $191,730,900. Those with the most stock were members of the board and Agate Resources corporate officers. Centene has committed numerous criminal acts for many years, but has gotten away with just hand slaps because they are protected by state and federal government and judicial assistance, and a board of directors made up of people like former Senator Dick Gephardt and Governor Tommy Thompson. All those involved with Centene have traded in their moral grounding and compass for a buck. Centene's CEO and chairman, Michael Neidorff, was paid $19.3 million and received $13.9 million in Centene stock in 2014. In 2017, he was paid $22 million. That same year, median household income was $55,775 per year, while Neidorff made $100,000 a day. So with a plethora of publicly available knowledge regarding Centene's criminal past, readily available with even a cursory internet inquiry, why would the state of Oregon allow the purchase of Agate Resources and Trillium Health by Centene? Of course, money. After Oregon Health Authority Director Bruce Goldberg resigned in disgrace in March 2014, Ms. Lynn Saxton was appointed director by Governor John Kitzhaber and was confirmed January 12, 2015. Ms. Saxton was contacted and given documents in 2015 by the whistleblower regarding Agate Resources' criminal acts, but once again, this information was ignored. Ms. Lynn Saxton resigned in August 2017 after her plan to plant false stories about Family Care, a coordinated care organization in Oregon she disliked and was feuding with, leaked out. The real reason Ms. Saxton wanted Family Care gone was to open up room for Centene's HealthNet. Centene's political contributions buy this kind of influence. Ms. Lauren Cowley Robinson, at 31 years of age, was appointed Oregon Insurance Commissioner July 2013. She was brought in to oversee the sale of Agate Resources to Centene for political and corporate players. Quote, the Eugene Register Guard reported that the Oregon Insurance Division has blacked out the identities of Agate's 217 individual owners and the payouts they would receive under the sale of Agate Resources to Centene, unquote. These stock payouts were close to $200 million and came from money that was illegally procured and intended for the poor. Ms. Lauren Cowley Robinson oversaw this massive financial deal that involved human lives and their health, as did her boss Patrick Allen, Governor John Kitzhaber, Secretary of State Kate Brown, Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum, and many other Oregon government officials. Lauren Cowley Robinson received letters from many individuals who recommended against the sale of Agate Resources to Centene, one of them being the whistleblower, who was willing to supply the Oregon Insurance Division with information he had regarding Agate Resources' criminal acts. Instead, Ms. Cowley Robinson chose to compromise herself criminally and collude in stealing from Oregon's poor and U.S. taxpayers. Secretary of State Dennis Richardson, elected November 2016, after meeting with the whistleblower, ordered an audit of the Oregon Health Authority in early 2017. Here are some excerpts from that audit. Quote, "The Oregon Health Authority has gaps in procedures for preventing certain improper payments, insufficient management of the agency's processes for identifying and resolving payment and eligibility issues, prioritization of staffing resources, and efforts to address technology issues put taxpayer dollars at risk." Unquote. Quote, "The Oregon Health Authority lacks well-defined, consistent, and agency-wide processes to detect certain improper payments, especially related to coordinated care organizations. We identified approximately 31,300 questionable payments based on our review of 15 months of data." Unquote. The whistleblower states this number is actually in the hundreds of thousands of questionable payments. Quote, "The Oregon Health Authority reported completing the action plan to determine eligibility for the remaining backlog of 115,200 Medicaid recipients. Approximately 47,600, 41%, were deemed ineligible as a result, although this figure may decrease slightly through the end of November. Failure to address this issue in a timely fashion resulted in approximately $88 million in avoidable expenditures." Unquote. Quote, "The Oregon Health Authority is responsible for all aspects of Oregon's Medicaid program, including preventing, detecting, and recovering improper payments." Unquote. Quote, "Our audit work was limited by prior agency management. At times we were prevented direct access to staff, had our interviews with staff monitored, had our information requests delayed, and were occasionally provided with incomplete and/or inaccurate information." Unquote. Quote, "The lack of strong improper payment detection procedures poses a significant risk to Oregon's Medicaid program." Unquote. Quote, "Coordinated care organizations, who are key stakeholders in detecting improper payments, also generally appear to lack effective and proactive improper payment detection and recovery processes." Unquote. Quote, "The Oregon Health Authority has never sanctioned a coordinated care organization despite documented compliance issues and authority under federal regulations and contractual terms." Unquote. Quote, "4 coordinated care organizations had findings that may contribute to a higher risk of improper Medicaid payments." Unquote. Quote, "Without clearly defined rules and contracts, it is difficult for Oregon Health Authority to hold providers and coordinated care organizations accountable." Unquote. Quote, "The Oregon Health Authority is likely not detecting many improper payments that could be recovered." Unquote. There are more details about the following individuals and their stock payouts in the full-length video and transcripts. Terry Copeland was the CEO and owner of Agate Resources. Patrice Korjenik was the Chief Operating Officer. Thomas Wiest, MD, was the Medical Director and also an owner. David Cole was the Chief Financial Officer. And Dr. John Sattenspiel was at one time a Medical Director. Shannon Conley and Amanda Cobb-Franson were also deeply involved with this corrupt corporation. Jim Torrey is a former Eugene, Oregon mayor who was a shareholder and board member of Agate Resources and Lane Independent Physicians Association. He made over $3.4 million from his LIPA stock upon the sale of Agate Resources. Pat Farr is a Lane County Commissioner. According to the whistleblower, Mr. Farr worked to steer grant and tax money to bail out Agate Resources and Trillium Health after multiple whistleblowers exposed their noncompliance with Medicaid and Affordable Care Act regulations, mandating that every patient have a primary care doctor. His wife, Debbie Farr, was formerly an Oregon State representative and director of marketing and community relations for McKinsey-Willamette Medical Center. She is currently community relations manager for Trillium Community Health Plan and HealthNet of Oregon. Jordan Popp was a shareholder and on the Agate Board of Directors. Mr. Popp wrote a letter to the Oregon Insurance Commissioner encouraging Ms. Callie Robinson and the state to allow the sale of Agate Resources to Centene. As a board member and large stockholder, he had direct knowledge of Agate Resources and Trillium Health and their illegal schemes. He received over $1.3 million for his stock upon the sale of Agate Resources. Heather Bush is a Lane County Commissioner alerted by the whistleblower to Agate Resources' criminal activities. Ms. Bush chose to ignore this information. Stoll Reeves Law Firm, headquartered in Portland, Oregon, has a national reach. According to the whistleblower, they are the legal muscle that protects Oregon government and companies like Agate Resources. Up to 5 Stoll Reeves lawyers at a time have been assigned to attack and destroy the whistleblower, representing himself because of his knowledge and exposure of Oregon corporate and government corruption. What is particularly disturbing is that Carolyn D. Walker, a former Stoll Reeves partner and supposed heavy hitter in Black Lives Matter, is involved with protecting government and corporations that are destructive to Black lives in Oregon. Ms. Walker represents entities that have denied all races access to medical care, especially people of color. Ms. Walker is more interested in protecting the assets of the privileged and wealthy, while hypocritically acting as if she's a warrior for the downtrodden, who can't afford attorneys like her. She's had no problem destroying our Native American whistleblower, who is fighting for the underprivileged, especially the children. On January 20th, 2014, the whistleblower was awarded unemployment benefits by Oregon Administrative Law Judge Kay Monroe, who found the whistleblower had been wrongfully dismissed, that is, terminated, from his job at Trillium Health without cause. Immediately after Administrative Law Judge Kay Monroe's decision, a meeting was arranged with Governor John Kitzhaber by Agate Resources CEO and owner Terry Copeland, their medical director and owner Dr. Thomas Wiest, and their chief operating officer Patrice Kurgenik. From Dr. Kitzhaber's office, number 1 campaign official Kevin Neely, his number 2 campaign official Kristen Leonard, Kevin Neely's wife and an Agate Resources lobbyist, and Kitzhaber's girlfriend Sylvia Hayes, a lobbyist for Agate Resources, were also involved. According to the whistleblower, Agate Resources paid Kitzhaber $40,000 to form a 2-person sham judicial team composed of, number 1, former state senator Anthony Tony Corcoran, who was a friend of Agate Resources, and number 2, Governor Kitzhaber's aide Susan Rossiter, a Portland lawyer. These 2 individuals were chosen by Kitzhaber to re-decide Administrative Law Judge Kay Monroe's decision. They used forged emails to help make their decision. This is unheard of and illegal. Administrative Law Judge Monroe's decision was overturned by the 2-person sham judicial team of Tony Corcoran and Susan Rossiter, using fictitious emails and inventing their own rules. Stoll Reeves' attorney and partner Carolyn D. Walker wrote the final decision. This is unheard of and illegal. The whistleblower filed complaints with the U.S. Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, EEOC, and OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. Oregon government, abusing their contracts, fraudulently took those complaints from the federal government and sat on them for a year before administratively dismissing them. Oregon's Bureau of Labor and Industry, BOLI, falsified the complaints and associated records regarding retaliation against the whistleblower. The date on the Oregon complaints was January 9, 2015, 2 weeks before the EEOC handed off the case to them January 23, 2015. None of the complaints filed by the EEOC were included in Oregon's records. BOLI did not file the whistleblower retaliation complaint, but instead lied and violated their contract with federal OSHA and the EEOC. A Stoll Reeves employee was involved with the whistleblower's case and attempted to pass herself off as a BOLI supervisor to obtain information. The whistleblower had recorded the telephone call and therefore is able to prove criminal fraud by Oregon government operating under a federal contract, a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. The whistleblower then filed a complaint in Eugene Federal District Court, where he was met with the devious and illegal conduct of Article 3 Judge Ann Aiken's court. Aiken's court has ignored the law, denied the whistleblower his right to discovery, altered and deleted documents, ignored the Cochise Consultancy Incorporated v. United States ex rel. Hunt 2019 SCOTUS decision, and had unlawful communications with Stoll Reeves attorneys, illegally providing them with information such as the contents of court orders a week before they had been issued. More details of this are in the full-length video version. Kate Brown received campaign contributions in 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2018 from Centene for $65,000 and Stoll Reeves for $10,737, the same amount each of those years they contributed. Secretary of State Kate Brown and others were receiving campaign contributions from Centene before they were even an Affordable Care Act player in Oregon. Agate Resources wasn't sold to Centene until 2015. So the rails were being greased for some time prior, as early as 2008, so that the sale would go through smoothly at a later date. John Kitzhaber in 2010 and 2014 received $20,458 from Stoll Reeves each of those years. Ron Wyden in 2010 received $8,500 from Centene, and in 2016 he received $8,500 from Centene and $4,500 from Stoll Reeves. Oregon courts are being packed with lawyers from law firms who donate to politicians. Reading from the article, quote, "Stacked Courts and Campaign Contributions," unquote. Quote, "Last week, Governor Brown announced that she is appointing attorney Jackie Kamens to the appeals court bench, despite Kamens having no experience as a lower court judge. What Governor Brown didn't mention is that the law firm Kamens works for, Markowitz Herbold, just happens to be a huge donor to Kate Brown's political campaign over the years. Between the law firm as an entity and employees of the firm, they contributed $26,770 to Brown over the years. Even more disturbing, they donated $3,500 to Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum as a company and another $1,274 as individuals. Now Kamens, one of their attorneys, will be judging cases that Rosenblum's office is a party to, as every criminal appeal is represented by Rosenblum's state Attorney General office. This creates a significant conflict of interest. In total, Markowitz Herbold, as a business entity, has contributed $61,689 to political causes. Employees of the firm have contributed a total of $57,989. Many of these contributions are from David Markowitz himself. This law firm that donates bigly to politicians also happens to land several fat contracts to the tune of $115 million. There's an additional $6,150,000 in contracts that shows up on a different page. They pocketed a further $27,950,000 in expired contracts that began in 2006. The whopping total is $148,911,905. That's quite a return on their campaign contribution investments. This isn't the first pay-for-play instance where Kate Brown rewarded Markowitz Herbold law firm. She had just previous to the appointment of Jackie Kamens appointed another of the law firm's attorneys, Stephen Alexander, to a seat on the Multnomah County Circuit Court bench, unquote. Now do you see how the deck is stacked against the public? Oregon courts at both the state and federal levels are nothing but political appointees, most of whom owe a debt to or are friends with Oregon politicians and the law firms they came from. These judges suck at the public teat with their bloated salaries and benefits while they judicially rape the public in the courtroom in favor of their political and legal sponsors and the corporations they represent. There's no justice or constitutional rights in Oregon as a result of the criminal racketeering and conspiracy occurring between government, favored corporations, powerful legal firms, and the politically appointed and controlled court judges. I'd like to know where the $150 million in state contracts went that were given to the Markowitz Herbold law firm. I'm suspicious that a portion of the money ended up offshore in politicians' and bureaucrats' accounts. And this is only one example of probably many of these state contract schemes. The whistleblower has put his own life on the line trying to alert others to Oregon's criminal activities. He is especially concerned about the children. Our elected and unelected public servants attack and undermine him instead of protecting him and the public. He has received death threats to himself and his family from phone numbers that have been traced to Oregon government phones. Oregon government is rated as one of the worst in the United States by the Integrity Project. Oregon received an F grade. There's a reason for that.